All right, we're on chapter 13 of A Course in Miracles. This is called The Guiltless World, and this is the last section of this chapter, and it's section 11, The Peace of Heaven. Forgetfulness and sleep and even death become the ego's best advice for dealing with the perceived and harsh intrusion of guilt on peace. Yet no one sees himself in conflict and ravaged by a cruel war unless he believes that both opponents in the war are real. Believing this, he must escape, for such a war would surely end his peace of mind and so destroy him. Yet if he could but realize the wars between real and unreal powers, he could look upon himself and see his freedom. No one finds himself ravaged and torn in endless battles if he himself perceives them as wholly without meaning. God would not have his son embattled, and so his son's imagined, quote, enemy, unquote, is totally unreal. You are but trying to escape a bitter war from which you have escaped. The war is gone. For you have heard the hymn of freedom rising unto heaven. Gladness and joy belong to God for your release, because you made it not. Yet as you made not freedom, so you made not a war that could endanger freedom. Nothing destructive ever was or will be. The war, the guilt, the past are gone as one into the unreal reality from which they came. When we are all united in heaven, you will value nothing that you value here. For nothing that you value here do you value wholly, and so you do not value it at all. Value is where God placed it, and the value of what God esteems cannot be judged, for it has been established. It is wholly of value. It can merely be appreciated or not. To value it partially is not to know its value. In heaven is everything God values and nothing else. Heaven is perfectly unambiguous. Everything is clear and bright and calls forth one response. There is no darkness and there is no contrast. There is no variation. There is no interruption. There is a sense of peace so deep that no dream in this world has ever brought even a dim imagining of what it is. Nothing in this world can give this peace, for nothing in this world is wholly shared. Perfect perception can merely show you what is capable of being wholly shared. It can also show you the results of sharing while you still remember the results of not sharing. The Holy Spirit points quietly to the contrast, knowing that you will finally let him judge the difference for you, allowing him to demonstrate which must be true. He has perfect faith in your final judgment because he knows that he will make it for you. To doubt this would be to doubt that his mission will be fulfilled. How is this possible when his mission is of God? You whose mind is darkened by doubt and guilt, remember this. God gave the Holy Spirit to you and gave him the mission to remove all doubt and every trace of guilt that his dear Son has laid upon himself. It is impossible that this mission fail. Nothing can prevent what God would have accomplished from accomplishment. Whatever your reactions to the Holy Spirit's voice may be, whatever voice you choose to listen to, whatever strange thoughts may occur to you, God's will is done. You will find the peace in which he established you, because he does not change his mind. He is invariable as the peace in which you dwell, and of which the Holy Spirit reminds you. You will not remember change and shift in heaven. You have need of contrast only here. Contrast and differences are necessary teaching aids, for by them you learn what to avoid and what to seek. When you have learned this, you will find the answer that makes the need for any differences disappear. Truth comes of its own will unto its own. When you have learned that you belong to truth, it will flow lightly over you without a difference of any kind. For you will need no contrast to help you realize that this is what you want, and only this. Fear not, the Holy Spirit will fail in what your Father has given him to do. The will of God can fail in nothing. Have faith in only this one thing, and it will be sufficient. God wills you be in heaven, and nothing can keep you from it or it from you. Your wildest misperceptions, your weird imaginings, your blackest nightmares all mean nothing. They will not prevail against the peace God wills for you. The Holy Spirit will restore your sanity because insanity is not the will of God. If that suffices him, it is enough for you. You will not keep what God would have removed because it breaks communication with you with whom he would communicate. His voice will be heard. The communication link that God himself placed within you, joining your mind with his, cannot be broken. You may believe you want it broken, and this belief does interfere with the deep peace in which the sweet and constant communication God would share with you is known. Yet his channels of reaching out cannot be wholly closed and separated from him. Peace will be yours because his peace still flows to you from him whose will is peace. You have it now. The Holy Spirit will teach you how to use it, and by extending it to learn that it is in you. God willed you heaven and will always will you nothing else. The Holy Spirit knows only of his will. There is no chance that heaven will not be yours, for God is sure, and what he wills is as sure as he is. You will learn salvation because you will learn how to save. It will not be possible to exempt yourself from what the Holy Spirit wants to teach you. Salvation is as sure as God. His certainty suffices. Learn that even the darkest nightmare that disturbs the mind of God's sleeping Son holds no power over him. He will learn the lesson of awaking. God watches over him and light surrounds him. Can God's Son lose himself in dreams when God has placed within him the glad call to awaken and be glad? He cannot separate himself from what is in him. His sleep will not withstand the call to wake. The mission of redemption will be fulfilled as surely as the creation will remain unchanged throughout eternity. You do not have to know that heaven is yours to make it so. It is so. Yet to know it, the will of God must be accepted as your will. The Holy Spirit will undo for you everything you have learned that teaches that what is not true must be reconciled with truth. This is the reconciliation the ego would substitute for your reconciliation to sanity and to peace. The Holy Spirit has a very different kind of reconciliation in his mind for you, and one he will effect as surely as the ego will not effect what it attempts. Failure is of the ego, not of God. From him you cannot wander, and there is no possibility that the plan the Holy Spirit offers to everyone for the salvation of everyone will not be perfectly accomplished. You will be released, and you will not remember anything you made that was not created for you and by you in return. For how can you remember what was never true or not remember what has always been? It is this reconciliation with truth and only truth in which the peace of heaven lies. Okay, this is the last section of this chapter. This chapter is called The Guiltless World, and it's been all about talking a lot about guilt. And this section is called The Peace of Heaven, and obviously it's talking about peace. And it starts with this saying, forgetfulness and sleep and even death become the ego's best advice for dealing with the perceived and harsh intrusion of guilt on peace. So the ego has a mission. And there's two things, right? There's the ego and the Holy Spirit. The ego's mission is to keep us asleep for as long as possible. Not to know what we really are, but to think that we are the ego. And that's all we are. And the Holy Spirit's mission is to bring us to peace, to the peace of God. And, Jesus basically restates the Blues Brothers, the Holy Spirit is on a mission from God, right? And the mission from God is to restore sanity and peace to us. And just like the ego, the Holy Spirit will stop at nothing. Except the Holy Spirit's nothing is not the same nothing of the ego spirit, the egos. The no thing, right? The Holy Spirit will stop at no thing. Now, we're dreaming, right? That's what the Course is saying. And in this dream, we have let's read this passage. We have nightmares and horrible things that, and especially as we get closer to what the Course is saying, more stuff comes up to the surface. And it can get very hairy, scary. It can get very horrible, terrible, awful. in the deepest sense of those words, we can get horrified. I don't know if I mentioned this before, but there's a great story in the Jewish tradition. I believe it's either in the Mishnah or the Talmud, which says that 4 rabbis went into the Pardes, which is a term for the mystical teachings. They went into they went deep into the mystic, and one of them went crazy, and one of them died, and one of them became a heretic, and only one rabbi came out alive. He entered in peace and he left in peace. And the story is to make it clear that when you start going there, becomes very challenging. This is why in the Upanishads, in the Hindu Vedic scriptures, you have this idea of the razor's edge. So this is the razor's edge, right? So and I really feel the Course really speaks to people that are really on the edge. They're getting close to insanity. I mean, we're all insane, but they're getting close to losing their marbles, getting off their rocker, or they're close to killing themselves, or they're close to losing complete faith in everything and just becoming a nihilist, let alone an atheist, a nihilist, right? Have faith in only this one thing, and it will be sufficient. God wills you be in heaven, and nothing can keep you from it or it from you. Your wildest misperceptions, your weird imaginings, your blackest nightmares all mean nothing. They will not prevail against the peace God wills for you. The Holy Spirit will restore your sanity, because insanity is not the will of God. If that suffices Him, it is enough for you. Now, this is not a threat, it's a promise. Jesus is not threatening us. He's not saying you have to do this. He's saying you take all the time you need. Time is an illusion. There's no way that you will not come around to what I'm saying, right? Because that is what you are. You are, Jesus said you are the will of God. God's will is only perfect peace for God's Son, and you are God's Son, and I am God's Son. We are all in this together. We are all one in the sonship. We're all in the same boat. And there's no way in hell that we can not find what we are, because that's what we are. We can only go so far. There's only so far we can roam in the Roman wilderness before we get back home again. And again, that's not a threat, and that's not forcing us to do anything that we don't want to do. It's just to say that's how it is. You can either get with it now, or again, this is not a threat, but basically it's either now or later. You can do it now, or you can do it later. Now, if you do it now, here's what you get. You get peace now. You get joy now. You get the love that you are seeking now. You get the understanding and the wisdom that you truly want now. You get a life that is more fulfilling now. The thing is that you may not. It may not. You still will have problems, because that's what the world is. The world is one damn problem after another. It's not that you won't have problems. It's just that you will have everything prioritized and in perspective. That's the difference. You will know what is real, and you will not get upset by the small stuff. Don't sweat the small stuff. You will not sweat the small stuff, and it's all small stuff, as that book, pointed out. It's all small stuff. When you compare it to the peace of God, there's really no problem. God has no problem, right? Jamaica, no problem, man. We have only made the problem. We have a problem. We have many problems. We have 1,000. We got 99 problems. And the bitch of life is the biggest one. But is this life? Is this our real existence? And Jesus is affirming, no, it's not our real existence. Our real existence is only in God. God is the only thing that's real. Everything else has a contingent reality. The Course doesn't even put it that way. The Course puts it a lot more starkly and uncompromisingly and says, God is the only reality. Nothing else really exists. The ego is nothing. This world is nothing. The world of duality is really nothing. There's nothing here for you. There's nothing here for any of us. That's the ego. The ego's trick is to make us, the carrot and the stick. Keep chasing the carrot. You're never going to get the carrot, but keep on chasing it. Rather than accepting this moment, rather than accepting that heaven is here, heaven is now. There's nothing else. There's nowhere to go. So the reconciliation talks here, at the end. The reconciliation. The Holy Spirit wants us to bring us to the true reconciliation. The Holy Spirit will undo for you everything you have learned that teaches that what is not true must be reconciled with truth. This is the reconciliation the ego would substitute for your reconciliation to sanity and to peace. We're trying to combine apples and oranges. That's the ego's game, is to, Jesus says here at the beginning, no one sees himself in conflict and ravaged by a cruel war unless he believes that both opponents in the war are real. So this is different than Christianity. Even what Jesus in the Gospels seems to have been teaching, or at least what came out of that, which is the idea that Satan or the forces of evil are at war with heaven. And, ultimately in that war, God will prevail, right? And Jesus is saying the same thing here. But Jesus is not giving any real credence to the ego. But he is saying the ego is very real. For us, the ego is very real, it's very powerful, and we can't deny that power. But he's not calling the ego Satan. He's not making it demonic. He's basically just saying the ego is simply a false formulation or a false idea of what we are. It's a misidentification. It's not satanic. And to the extent to which we believe in the devil and the demonic and the satanic, we will stay fixated on that, and we will make others, we will label others satanic, demonic, and that's not helpful. That's not really helpful. What is helpful is to clarify what the problem is without attacking what it is. the poor ego, you could say Jesus is attacking the ego all over the place. No, Jesus is just trying to clarify what it is. He's just making it ever so clear and showing us why we don't want the ego. And again, we can choose now. We can do the work now to restore and get that reconciliation, or we can do it later. It's up to us. And if you're here right now listening to this, then you're probably ready now. So thank you for listening, and we're going to get to the next chapter, chapter 14, soon. The next chapter is called Teaching for Truth. See you very soon. Om.